Are you serious? Are you serious, guys? I'm very serious and I'm very concerned. We're going to be teaching on AI and the beast today from 12 to 3 at my website. You can get a ticket for that. Me and Heidi will be doing it. But the reason I'm coming here right now, and if you can't be there live, you can get a ticket and watch the archives, and you really should. I'm troubled. I'm beyond troubled, and I don't even know how to explain it. You know, I was studying on my book it's coming out, the new book, Trump versus the Beast, and things. And last night, and I went to sleep early last night. I was very tired, and I woke up this morning about 2:30, somewhere between 2:30 and 3. And because I was in a dream, I went into a dream, and that dream seemed like it would never end. It just kept going and kept going. And in the dream, I saw thick clouds, of rolling black clouds. And I kept hearing what I thought was thunder. I thought it was the thunder. But then I realized, no, it was rumbling. It was rumbling. And then, and you know, when you're in a dream, you know, you're kind of, where are you? And all of a sudden, I felt my feet shaking. I felt uneasy. And I heard this rumbling and this rumbling. And then I realized this was a major earthquake. And the quake was powerful. And the quake was incredible. And I've only been in a couple times where there was an earthquake where it just barely shook my feet. Once in California and once actually even in Indiana years ago. But this was different. And all of a sudden I saw this building. It was a tall building. Maybe it was 25, 30 stories. I'm not sure. It was a tall building. All of a sudden I seen the building sink. The building sinked. And when it sunk, then it slowly tipped and collapsed. And I heard cries. I heard women wailing. And I heard women weeping. And I kept thinking, God, what is this? And then I had a glimpse of the Holy Land. I had it's just really, I don't know if you ever had a dream where you're somewhere and then all of a sudden you're somewhere else. And then all of a sudden you're somewhere else, but you're still in the same dream. And I didn't know where I was at exactly. I seen the building go down. I heard the women wailing and weeping. And then there I was standing, what looked like maybe was on the Mount of Olives. I could see the city of Jerusalem in front of me. It looked like that must have been where I was standing, but, you know, in a dream. And I kept hearing the rumbling. And the women weeping, and then the screams and the cries, and I knew it was catastrophic. And then I saw bridges collapsing, boom, 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 and it was over a waterway. And I kept thinking, where is this? Where is this happening? Because, you know, it looked like river. I first thought, is that the Ohio River? Was I looking at the Ohio River? And then I thought, no, well, I don't know. And then I thought, well, maybe this is a different river. And then I thought, maybe this is the West Coast. Maybe I'm in the West Coast. And this, it wasn't the oceans. It wasn't the Atlantic Ocean in the east. It wasn't the Pacific Ocean. At least I couldn't see any oceans. But it definitely was waterways, and it was wide, and it was deep. And these bridges were collapsing over top of them. And I could smell, and I don't know if you've ever had a dream where you could, guys, where you actually can smell. You can hear and smell and see. This was unbelievable. But I could smell oil, and I could smell gas, and I could smell diesel. And I wasn't sure why. It was very strong, and I wasn't sure why I was smelling all this. And I felt in my spirit, I felt fear. I felt fear. I felt fear falling over America, and I felt fear rocking the world. I thought maybe that in the dream, I kept thinking has there been a detonation? Has there been an explosion? but there was no explosion. It was a rumbling. It was a shaking and a rumbling, and I knew it was some type of major earthquake of some sort. I seen military trucks. All of a sudden, these trucks were coming down the road, and I seen the guy had, like, have you ever seen the National Guard going? And they're driving them old trucks, National Guard trucks. And I seen a caravan of them going down the road, bumping up and down the road. They had the driver had his window down and his arms sticking out, smoking a cigarette as he was driving. And I looked into there, and I seen the dread on the younger guy. I seen dread on his face, and I knew that he was headed toward the area, wherever the area was. He was headed in that direction, and I could see him specifically. He had that hat on, then all along was his military vehicles headed in that direction. And guys, it was, and then I heard it. I heard the voice saying, "You can't stop prophecy. You can't stop prophecy." And then, and it felt like I kept like going from location to location, and I'm standing back in Israel again, and I'm looking out over Israel, and I'm seeing the dark clouds. I'm seeing the really dark clouds in the sky over top of the city of Jerusalem from my vantage point in the dream. It was just, then I seen trains, and I saw these trains, and the trains all of a sudden would just derail. They just roll off. They just run off the rail, and cars, and it looked like 18, 20, 30 rail cars at a time, just and tip. They would just go off. It's like the track was just moved, like the track had separated, and the trains just rode off. They just rode off and fell over. And I seen fire, and I could smell oil of something, some kind of oil. I'm not sure. And that was even and that was weird because I could smell that earlier, but then I could smell it again. So I kept trying to understand God. I could hear women wailing. I could hear them weeping. I heard people praying. I heard church bells ringing, and I heard people praying. And I mean, I heard people praying like I haven't heard since I was a boy. I heard them wailing. I heard them crying out to God. I heard them crying like I used to hear my mama pray and my daddy pray and a lot of the old saints when I was growing up as a kid. And I knew then that something bad had happened, and something with Israel. And what came to me was this. I kept saying, I knew it was a bad earthquake, and I knew it was in America, and I knew it was, and I didn't know if it was on the West Coast or the East Coast or in the middle of the country somewhere, but I knew there were bridges over water, and they were rivers or canals, large, wide waterways. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know, but I could tell you the bridges were collapsing. And I knew it had to do with Israel. I knew it had something to do with America, and I knew that I kept hearing that it kept coming to me. I heard it first. You can't stop prophecy. You can't stop prophecy. But in my spirit, I knew what it was. I knew that they had parted the land. I knew that they had parted the land, and it was like and so I said, What do we do? What do we do other than hearing the church pray? But I did hear Christians praying. I heard church. I heard people. I heard church bells ringing, and I heard people praying. And they were praying, and it was the voices of the prayers and women were wailing, and women were weeping, and people were screaming. But those screams were the screams of terror. Those screams were the screams of fear. Those screams were the screams of agony. And I knew many people died. I knew many people died. And so I couldn't get out of this dream. I don't know if you've ever had a prophetic vision. When you have an open vision, guys, you're awake. But when you have a dream, and it's a spiritual dream, and this was a definite spiritual dream. This wasn't bad pizza, because I didn't have pizza last night. This was a spiritual dream. This was a spiritual dream that God was saying to me, you can't stop prophecy. It's going to happen. And the consequences of this is going to be catastrophic. That's what I was feeling. I didn't hear God say that. I heard him. I heard the voice. Which I believe was the Lord, saying you can't stop prophecy. But what I was understanding, what I was interpreting, what I was being revealed to me, what I was realizing is that the land of Israel had been parted, and God was angry, and there were ramifications from this. There was consequences for this. There was agony for this, but there was also the church praying, and that was the only thing. The only positive thing was I heard church bells ringing and people praying. I don't know, folks. I'm a little bit troubled by this. I'm a lot troubled by this. Maybe I spent a lot of hours reading and yesterday afternoon studying and working on my book, Trump versus the Beast. I'm writing this book, and it'll come out next spring. It's already it's on Amazon right now. They just put the nice color cover up now, so I know what the cover of the book's going to look like. We're still working on it, Troy Anderson and I, and I was researching, and I also was listening to some old prophecies by Kim Clement and Dr. Sumrall and Dr. Baxter yesterday. So, and then I studied and I was working on my book. And I was tired, and I knew we were going to do this teaching, which, oh, by the way, is going to start at 12 noon. If you, but Heidi, you'll be ready, and we're going to talk about AI and the beast. But I was writing my book, but this morning I'm thinking, did I just overwhelm myself in study and preparation? No, this was too strong. I could smell oil. I could smell gas and diesel. I could see fire. I watched trains derail. I watched bridges collapse with enormous power when they would hit the waters. And I heard women wailing and weeping. I heard people screaming. I watched this building sink. It looked like it fell 30 feet. It just went boom, and then it fell over, and it was like slow motion. And guys, I don't know. And I knew there was this anti-Semitic feeling, okay, as if the Jews were going to be blamed for this, as if, and I don't know what that meant. When I woke up, I kept thinking, oh my Lord, was this just prophecy coming? What's coming? Because the voice saying, you can't stop prophecy, led me to know that this is, and so, I struggle with this one thing, because when you start talking about parting the land, it says it in Joel, it says, the Lord brings the whole world down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and the Lord says, don't part my land. And he pleads with the world for his nation of Israel, for the land, and for his people, his heritage, it says. And Jesus kind of gives you a hint that they do part the land when he talks about the Jews having to flee. And if you're in Judea, you got to run. When the Antichrist takes and they commit the abomination of desolation, and the Antichrist steps into the third temple and declares that he's God. I know these scriptures. I know these prophecies. I know that the Mount of Olives is going to split in half, but in this dream, the Mount of Olives didn't split. I was standing on the Mount of Olives. It never split. Yes, Jerusalem, I was looking at Jerusalem, the city, as I have many times standing there, but the clouds were rolling black, and I could hear the rumble. And I could feel the shaking, and I could smell the oil and the diesel and the gas. And and I could hear the wailing, and I felt the fear across the land, and I heard the church bells ringing and the people praying, but I also felt this anti-Semitism, this anti-hatred, and it was as if they were blaming the Jews. It was as if they were blaming the Jews. I don't know. I don't know if they were trying to say this was a false flag event. You know what? I don't know. I don't want to start speculating. I don't want to speculate. That's the one thing about a vision or dream. Don't try to fill in the blanks. Only tell what you heard, what you see, and in this case, what I even smelled. So I'm just saying. I'm going to say this. This is a warning to America and to the world. God ain't playing. Don't touch the apple of God's eye. God ain't playing. And time is running out. I'll see you guys. I'll be with Heidi from 12 noon to 3. We'll be live. If you got a ticket for this event, good. Be there, be ready. If you don't, get your ticket. Just go to my website at paulbegleyprophecy.com. Get the ticket. We're going to be teaching on AI and the beast. And maybe I'll share a little more about this dream because I couldn't go back to sleep till about, 4:30, 5. I don't know. Get saved. Give your life to Jesus because you can't stop prophecy. Heed the warning.